Running Back Nation, what is good? You absolute sickos.
Sickos.
We were just talking before I hit live. We were like, the fact that we're still talking about this team is just funny sometimes. And then 200 people come in the stream immediately, and I'm like, you guys are disgusting psychopaths, man. But you're just like me. And you're just like my boy NZ43 right here. NZ, man, subscriber to the channel for a long time, and then he started his own YouTube channel, and I was watching a couple of his videos, man, and I was like, and you've called the show plenty of times, so I always enjoy when you call the show, so I was like, let's do it. Let's do a collab, like, right around the All-Star break, since there wasn't really anything to talk about until the Lonnie Walker thing. But what's going on, man? Thanks for coming through.
Not much, Eastwood. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Appreciate the opportunity to chop it up with the rest of Sicko Nation.
My bad. Start over. My bad.
Oh, so it's good. DJ, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate the opportunity to chop it up with the rest of Sicko Nation and have ourselves a bit of a Sixers therapy session, although we're just getting back into the swing of things with this nightmare of a season, but there's definitely plenty to talk about.
Yeah, nightmare of a season is a good way to put it. So, yeah, well, yesterday we were supposed to go live. I don't want to give the whole story, and I don't want, you guys can thank you for all the wishes and everything when I posted the video photo on Twitter. But yeah, like it was like 7:45. We were about to go live at 8, and my girlfriend called me, told me she was in a car accident. She was totally fine. Everything's good. Thank you all for the wishes. Her car is totaled, though. Somebody just turned at a green light right into the front of her car, and that's what happened. But she's all good. She's fine. But yeah, I couldn't think about the Sixers with all type of that shit going on. So we're live now, and because that happened, everything happens for a reason. Because that happened, and there wasn't really anything for us to talk about, an hour or two before this stream, the Sixers signed Lonnie Walker. So there you have it. There you have native. It. Yeah. Yeah. Man. Well, I guess we could give our opinions each on the Lonnie Walker signing. I think Lonnie Walker's interesting, man, because 6'5", 200, like a good size for an NBA guard. He's had stints where he's looked great. He's had games against the Sixers where he's looked great. He's looked like that combo guard with good size and like 3-level scoring against us. That kind of guy. Brett Brown used to call him live ball gods. Remember that? Yep. That we always have trouble stopping. The Spencer Dinwiddies of the world, But he's had stints where he's looked great, and then he's had injuries, and then he's gotten just kind of shuffled off of teams, basically injured. Other players step up when he's injured. He comes back, doesn't get the minutes that he was playing before, ends up in the G League. Then he signs with the Celtics. Then he literally gets released from the Celtics or waived by the Celtics for salary cap reasons to avoid an $11 million penalty on top of the penalty they were already paying. So Lonnie Walker was really just a victim of salary cap stuff with the Celtics the last time. So he ends up out of the league completely, and he's over in the Euro League, and he's only 26 years old, and he's still playing. He's still a 3-level scorer. He still has great NBA size and athleticism. So it's always kind of one of those things like, why isn't Lonnie Walker in the league? So the Philadelphia 76ers are the one that signs Lonnie Walker. And, I have to like the signing. There's nothing that I can say, I think, to say I don't like it. I don't think it's earth-shattering. I don't think it's some kind of game changer. I don't think it puts the Sixers any closer to playoff contention this year than they were before, because that's one of the things people are saying is like, they're going for a playoff push. I'm like, I don't know if Lonnie Walker is going to push you over the edge. Maybe he surprises. But I do like the signing just because of his size, athleticism, and his ability to score on all 3 levels. His defense has always been questionable, but there's my take on it, man. What you think?
Hey, man, we just signed another player who's not 85 years old. Lonnie Walker has always been a decent player. I liked watching him play. His scoring ability is his bread and butter, and this is just another low-risk, high-reward move that Daryl Morey made, and I'm all for it. Just low-risk, high-reward. If he's not good, you don't have to play him. He's not making much. But if he does somehow, turn to a really decent role player for the Sixers, we can, stick with him for the future to build around Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. So just building on this young core, you got Jared Butler, Quentin Grimes, who's been fantastic. I really like the approach Daryl Morey has taken with just adding more youth. And the Sixers bench, finally starting to look like they got some actual legs. And hopefully this means we don't have to watch any Eric Gordon ever again.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking at. I feel like Daryl Morey has now done 3 different things since the trade deadline to force Nick Nurse to stop playing Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon. And for those that always say, they're veteran professionals, locker room guys, or whatever you want to say, I don't care. They can't watch them please just watch them on the defensive end. They can't jump, they can't run, they can't move fast enough. It's over. It's done. He needs to stop playing both of those guys. Eric Gordon in spurts when he's hitting threes, sure. He's had a 15-point game off the bench a couple weeks ago or something. But, yeah, Quentin Grimes, Jared Butler, Lonnie Walker, those kind of guys, all under 27 years old, 26, 24, and 24. So, yeah, Daryl Morey, he stuck himself with these Embiid, Paul George contracts. But at the same time, at the deadline, he didn't really make a splash to try to change something drastically right now. He kind of slyly started to get younger to say, if this doesn't work out, which it looks like it's not working out, we can move forward and begin to build a future with Maxey, McCain, and guys that are, like you said, less than 85 years old. So
definitely, yeah, it's definitely the right approach. Lonnie Walker, just not a crazy signing, but he is a decent player and can definitely give you a lot more on both ends of the floor than Lowry or Gordon ever could. And just seeing the Sixers finally take some steps to build out this young core that they are, getting, it's going to be exciting to see for the rest of the season. I know that the season's pretty much over and it's cooked, and anyone thinking otherwise is insane. But I do like this approach from Daryl Morey, finally stockpiling on assets. You know what I mean? Like, Morey has always been the type of GM to expend a lot, go for those big fish moves, whether it's James Harden or Paul George. But now we're seeing him finally get some guys who, if they can show out a little bit with the Sixers, they're still young, not making much. If they can, build up some trade value in the future and swing for another piece, add some draft capital on top of that, you know what I mean, and swing for some more established players. Not saying Lonnie Walker is, but he definitely has some to prove now that he's back in the NBA. But yeah, just liking this approach from Daryl Morey. Think he's finally just stepping back and realizing, all right, look, I don't think we can just fill this team with a bunch of decrepit players. We actually need guys who can run up and down the court, and it's time to get serious about moving towards the future of the Sixers franchise.
Yeah, is he possibly changing the way that he does things? Because for, the whole time he's been in Philly, he's basically been like, I need 3 all-stars, and then we'll just put whoever on the roster. If they played for the Houston Rockets before, at any point in their career, we'll just put them on there. If they're 37 and look like they're retired, we'll just play them because they were good in 2015. Yeah, it looks like he's changing his approach. And these are the players that he once referenced as random NBA players, by the way. There was a Ben Simmons trade rumor. He was on the radio before he traded Ben Simmons. He was on 97.5 The Fanatic. I remember because I was driving and I almost drove my car off the road when he said this. He said, Sixers fans want me to trade him for random NBA players. And I think it was the rumor with Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield at the time.
Yep. And Harrison Barnes, too, and some draft capital.
Yeah, and he was hell-bent on getting James Harden back. And you all know how that ended up. But yeah, for those that don't know, if you're looking at Lonnie Walker and you're saying, listen, he's out of the league, he's terrible, clearly, he had his chance and he's gone. The people said the same thing about Yabusele. It's not always the case, man. It's just not always the case. Things can happen. He was averaging 15 points per game in 2019-ish with the San Antonio Spurs, and he tore his meniscus, right medial meniscus tear. And then, he struggled to get back into the lineup after some guys started stepping up in San Antonio. When he was on the Lakers, he was averaging 15-ish points per game. Where does it say? 12 points per game in the playoffs. He was looking like the best scorer outside of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. And then he got hurt again. And then Austin Reeves stepped up, and then they added D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Roy Hachimura at the trade deadline. So he got kind of pushed out there in L.A. too. So those are 2 teams where when he had a chance, he was scoring some points off the bench and just kind of got phased out.
If I can add to that he did have the best years of his career in LA and did have in the playoff series against the Warriors when they made the conference finals in 2023. He had a 15-point game against them. You know what I mean? So he could definitely prove himself to be a decent shot creator for the Sixers. He's a decent NBA player. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an earth-shattering move, but it is a good pickup for sure.
Yeah, and then, of course, he signed with the Boston Celtics this past offseason, and they were so far into the second apron that they just waived him to avoid another $11 million tax penalty. So that's how he ended up not in the league this year. So I think the Sixers jumped the gun. I think, he would have gotten offers from plenty other teams. And at only 26 years old with showing flashes of potential in multiple teams, I don't see why not. So.
Oh, yeah. It was a 15-point quarter, not a 15-point game. Sorry if I misspoke. But, yeah, 15 points in one quarter in a playoff, that's...
Yeah, right there, Game 4.
That's no joke.
Game 4, They were up 2-1. He had a 15-point fourth quarter for them to win 104-101 and erase a 7-point deficit.
Yeah, going toe-to-toe with Steph Curry. It's no joke.
So, yeah, at that age, with showing potential, I don't think you can really hate this signing. And yeah, it makes sense timeline-wise with Maxey, McCain, and Quentin Grimes. I'm going to throw Quentin Grimes in there, man. He has a 30-point game for the Sixers already. No matter whether they got blown out or what, Quentin Grimes has a 30-point game for the Sixers, and that's something to think about because that dude can straight get buckets. You know what I mean?
He's doing literally everything we asked Paul George to do: just catch and shoot, run the floor, finish
Quentin
in transition.
Grimes is better than Paul George
for sure. Heck yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
There's this one play during the Nets game, one of my favorite plays of the season. It was where Adem Bona got a good defensive stop at the rim. Then he flipped it over to Jared Butler. And you know what Jared Butler did? He actually got it to Quentin Grimes in the corner, who was already there. You know what I mean? Transition points, and he drained a corner three. Something the Sixers have not done in I don't know how many years, but actually score in transition. So that's another thing I like about this team is that they're building it towards Tyrese Maxey, a guy who likes to just blitz up and down the court, one of the fastest players in the league, and filling them with some guys who can create their own shot, hit a wide open three. That's, it just makes sense. It's just logical moves that Daryl Morey is making.
Yeah, so I guess the question is now, and y'all answer in the chat also, are the Sixers really trying to win for the rest of this season? Because we've been questioning all season, are they tanking? Are they tanking? It never seemed like Nick Nurse was intentionally tanking because he looks so damn frustrated on the sidelines, and I don't think he's that good of an actor to be throwing games and look that pissed off. If he is, he needs to be in Hollywood or on a movie star or something. But now, after the All-Star break, they would have to go something like 28-4 to finish above 500. They're still in the 10th seed behind the Chicago Bulls. They can't
pretty sure they're tied with the Brooklyn Nets at the
I haven't looked at it recently.
Seed, actually, yeah.
11th seed. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're down one.
I'm going to double check that.
So we're down one. We're in the 11th seed. Yeah, and Josh Harris.
Number 11.
They are
tied
with the 11th seed.
Tied with the Nets.
So and that's sixth worst in the league right now, record-wise?
Yeah, I think according to tankathon.com, my new favorite website, they do have the sixth best odds.
We are back. Tankathon.com, man. We are back.
I've been spinning it recently. We have been getting some decent picks. I think I got the third pick, and then 2 spins later, got the second pick. Who knows?
Do you think Daryl Morey is still trying to win this season? Or do you think he's saying, like, listen, if we get him on the floor and we win some games, it is what it is. If not, I made some good signings to move forward in the future. I guess he's playing both hands as good as he can right now.
Right, yeah. I mean, this season is lost either way. I think it's clear the answer for anybody who's been intently watching this team, it's not working out this year. Joel Embiid and Paul George and Maxey, when they're on the court, they're not good. When they're not on the court, they are not good. This team just has been so disgusting to watch this entire year. Just with all the injuries and getting blown out by the worst teams in the league, not looking like they even like playing next to each other. This season's a complete wash, but I can't read Daryl Morey's mind. I don't really know what he's trying to do, but he is stockpiling on these young assets, which is good to see.
Yeah, we're gonna do a poll on the second half of this stream about, I put a poll on Twitter yesterday of what you think the Sixers should do for the rest of this season or in the offseason. What you think they should do? I guess way too early offseason prediction. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing. I haven't known what they're doing. I haven't known what they're doing all season. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, just playing Paul George and Embiid injured. The fact that we got to rely on random ESPN reports mid-game that Embiid needs another surgery, and then the next day talking about Paul George like having injections and stuff. Dude, this team with how vague they are with reporting injuries, it's out of this world how just ridiculous they are.
Yeah, somebody said, what is your Twitter account? It is at DJ Eastwood RIBP. That is me on Twitter. I don't know why I made it that complicated. I should just be at Running Back Philly, but whatever. It's at DJ Eastwood RIBP. Yeah, they're so vague with injuries, and you know what I think it is, man? I really think the front office of this team has first of all, no idea what they're doing, and they haven't for a long time. But I actually think they have no idea what the fan base, what the pulse of the fan base, they have no clue. Like, they have no clue. We see it every day on Twitter, on social media, random people. If you have friends that watch the Sixers too, anytime I'm around people that watch the NBA and other Sixers fans in my area and my friend groups around here, we all have the same, like, what is this team, dude? Shut it down. Shut it down. You know what I mean? I don't think the front office has any idea that that's how the fan base feels. And I think that they still try to lie, and they still think that they're getting over on the fans, and they used to fall for it. This fan base used to fall for it, I think, a little bit more than they do now. Everybody's so over it. They're still doing this vague thing with injuries, like, well, let's not say it, and if it goes this way, we'll say it, but don't. And then somebody on ESPN during a live broadcast is like, hey, Joel Embiid said that he's probably going to need another surgery. It's just so poorly run from the inside out, and it has been for a long, long time. But they keep getting worse at all of these things, and the vagueness of injury reporting it's just the weirdest thing with this franchise that you don't really see, I don't think, with other teams.
Yeah, for sure. There's always been drama with the Sixers and injuries. Like, it's nothing new. It's been the same thing for the past 10 years, not only from the organization, but from some of the players too. Like Embiid saying that he might never play a back-to-back again, and now he's not even playing, regular games with rests in between. It's been too much with this team and how just incompetent they are in reporting any injuries whatsoever. Just leaving the fans in the dark, the fans that have been watching since the process, waiting for something to finally happen with this team, and this is how they treat us. But yeah, life as a Sixers fan, man.
Since the process. So, yeah, the second half of the show, we're going to do the poll. I want to give my opinion on the NBA All-Star Game because I haven't said it on here yet this season. It's probably the same thing I say every season, but I want to say it again. And we'll do a Q&A. We'll do a Q&A at the end of the show.
Sounds good.
But first, this episode is brought to you by Mando. Mando is a full-body deodorant that comes in many forms and has 72-hour protection. You want to just smell good in one area, or you want to smell good all over? This is a full-body deodorant, and if you happen to be running around all weekend, no matter where you wake up, you're going to wake up smelling just as fresh as when you first put it on. Mando's starter kit gives you all the options. They got a cream, they got a regular style deodorant, they got a spray-on deodorant, and they got Mando wipes. Also, that's the starter kit, and you get $5 off of your Mando starter kit by using promo code SICKOS. That's about 40% off of your starter pack. That is promo code SICKOS on shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe. The Sixers franchise stinks, and watching this team this year stinks, but you don't have to. Use my promo code on Mando. Yeah, let's go to the poll that I put up on Twitter yesterday. And it is, if the 76ers, wait, let me change this. if the 76ers stop sharing, there we go, and then if the 76ers shut down Joel Embiid and Paul George for the rest of this season, because I think we can all kind of agree that that's what they should do, especially with the thing coming out with Paul George, like he's had injections in his pinky to try to play, and what for what? Why are you going out there and having the worst year since you were a rookie in the NBA? He's clearly injured. No matter what I think about him as an attitude, as a person, as a work ethic or whatever, he's clearly not healthy. Last year he played 74 games for the Clippers and averaged 22 points a game. Like, he didn't just quit. He didn't just fall off a cliff this far. He's clearly not healthy. Not that I want him next season. But,
yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying is there's no point in these guys anymore at this point in this season, continuing the season. I don't think Joel Embiid and Paul George should play another game this season.
For sure. Like I said earlier, it is clear the Sixers are not going anywhere. They have nothing to gain by putting Embiid and PG out there every night, only to get humiliated by the fans because they can't play next to each other, because they're injured or just not giving in the maximum amount of effort. They're getting blown out to the worst teams in the league. And if PG is hurt, which, yeah, he definitely is, there's definitely something wrong with him, just don't play him. It's not like the Sixers are going to go on some miracle run this year and go to the championship or the NBA Finals. Well, first they got to make a conference finals, but they're not going to go on some miracle run. They just need to take a step back, let Embiid get that surgery, let PG stay on the beach, maybe get some new podcast equipment, and just ride out the rest of the season with this young core. Help Maxey out, just get him used to playing with some faster guys. Nick Nurse, if he's still sticking around with the Sixers, I don't know whether the organization is going to think about moving on from him. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense with the poll, everyone wanting to trade PG and Embiid. I do too, to be honest. Like, as much as I've been an ardent supporter of Joel Embiid and Paul George, I grew up watching Paul George going toe-to-toe with LeBron James with those Pacers teams, with Lance Stevenson, Roy Hibbert, and that crew. But I think it's a little bit too late for the Sixers organization to be relying on two injury-prone players who cannot get on the floor consistently. And the Sixers, a problem with them, they've had no continuity whatsoever come playoff time. They have no chemistry. You look at all the teams who have been winning NBA championships, like the Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Do you know how much crap they've been getting for all those years, fans calling for them to get traded and all that? It finally clicked with them because they finally figured out the chemistry, and they did make a pretty stacked roster, but nonetheless, they rode out with them. Same thing with the Denver Nuggets. Jokic and Murray have been playing with each other for years. That core that the Sixers have, it's not going to last because they have two injury-prone players. You only got Maxey. You don't have a big three. You have a big 1.5.
Yeah, and I think at this stage of their careers, they're not elite enough individually to be that kind of tandem that can be like, oh, when they're healthy, they're going to dominate. You know what I mean? Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, sure. Sadly, I don't see him ever getting back to that. Maybe if he gets this other surgery that apparently he said he might need and takes more time, maybe he gets back to that, but he'll then be 31 years old coming off of another knee surgery. I mean, at that point, what are we really doing here? You know what I mean? Again, the average retirement age for a 7-footer in the NBA is 27 years old. He's 30. Yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah, what do we need? Why are they out there? Why are they out there hurt? They need to just shut them down for the rest of the season. And I think that, the question of this poll is, if they do shut them down for the rest of the season, what should they do this offseason? The overwhelming majority, at least on Twitter, out of 321 votes, 48.6% says trade them both. Of course, we don't know if that's possible. I think if you don't play Paul George another game this season, I think you can trade him this offseason. I think you can. I think you could say, look, he was hurt, dude. He hyperextended his knee twice. He tore ligament in his pinky on his non-shooting hand, which apparently is very important. It's the first time I've ever heard that in 25 years of watching the game, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You can still sell Paul George as, I don't know, though, at $50 million a year, 35 years old he's going to be, injury-prone too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
If you can, though, I guess if you can, most people voted trade them both. Me
Look,
on the
yeah.
Embiid. Go ahead, and then I'll
Oh,
go to
thank
my
you,
Embiid
thank you.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, the saving grace was that with that is two things. Number one is just the fact that I have seen way too many crazy NBA trades for either Paul George or Embiid, a trade for them to be completely out of the question, to be honest. Even with the amount of money they've been making, I've watched Ben Simmons get traded. It took a really long time, but dude, initially when that playoff series ended, we were getting offers for Malcolm Brogdon and a first round pick. So I think Paul George, at least, I don't know about Joel Embiid at this point, but Paul George, maybe he could be traded. If you attach some of our better picks that we got from the James Harden trade, the unprotected 2028 and I think the first round picks swap in 29, maybe you can get something going with that. But yeah, it's just like the same thing you have to do with the Al Horford trade then when we sent him to the Thunder with in exchange for Danny Green, but we had to give away our
That's the
2025.
right?
Well, yeah, our 2025 pick with the protection.
Yeah.
So that's why our pick is protected this year. We had to send that trade out because the Horford contract was so unbearable. At least.
See, that's the thing. The thing with that is that that's Daryl Morey fixing somebody else's mistake, right? Is he reflective enough to do that to fix his own mistake? That's the scary part for me because I don't see his ego allowing that so much. I see his ego trying to adjust a little bit, but still be like, nah, I believe what I believe. I believe this team can win and run it back next year. But at the same time, oh my God!
I mean,
like,
he didn't give Harden that max contract. You know what I mean? Like they had a done deal, but even he was hesitant. True. And yeah, they've. I mean, Harden. Even if his body wasn't in 100% conditioned, he was still giving you 21 and 10, 21 points, 10 assists. But even Morey was like, "Look, you're getting a lot older. Not really taking your body that seriously anymore." At least at the time with the Clippers, he definitely is.
He was looking like he was declining, conditioning wise and stuff. And yeah, I just don't think you could give him at that time a 4-year max contract. Then he ended up with 2 years, $70 million from the Clippers, and that's more of a contract that he was worth. Even when he was with the Sixers, if he would have been cool with it and would have been like, all right, fine, no max, I'll sign 2 years, 70. Then I think Morey would have signed him for 2 years, 70 here, and he wouldn't have had to go to LA. But
for sure.
He wanted to leave and go to LA because, Daryl went back on his promise or whatever. But yeah, it's tough to see, I think, Daryl Morey going back on this Paul George thing. Although the Harden contract, the Max Harden contract, that could have been from somewhere else. Like Daryl could have wanted to give it to him, and some ownership or somebody else could have been like, nah, we watched this guy look the way that he looked. You're not giving him that money. And
he did call Daryl Morey a liar. Flew all the way out to China.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that Daryl Morey decided not to give it to him on his own. It sounds to me like he had an idea and he promised him, and then he had to go back on it because of pressure that he was getting from somewhere maybe higher than him.
Yeah, who really knows? But even with that, it was just he was hesitant to give Harden the max contract, and he was on a decline, at least at the time. Look, I get it. But he was so willing to sign Paul George. That was the thing. Like, they were immediately front runners to get him. It was between Jimmy Butler and Paul George in the early stages of last year's offseason. But the fact that they were so quick to really give him that contract, I don't know. There's definitely got to be some disagreements between him and James personally but, I mean, who really knows, man? Probably.
So, yeah, 31% said trade only PG and run back with Embiid. 17% said run it back healthy, which just seems so far-fetched at this point. Like, it seems like a fantasy that just does not seem real. Like, does anybody actually envision Joel Embiid and Paul George being healthy next season and, doing what we thought they could possibly do this past season? It just seems like too little too late. I don't think it sounds realistic at all for them to run it back healthy next season. And also, the fans are so done with it, bro. And this ownership group, they're just money guys. and they did some shady stuff this offseason, not being clear about Embiid's injury to make sure they sold all those season ticket packages. You can't do that. You can't pull that off again. You can't say, hey, call up the season ticket holders. Hey, man, we're running it back with Embiid and Paul George. Would you like to renew your pet? Well, who's saying yes to that, dude? Like, I think they're going to be backs against the wall with this one this offseason.
Yeah, there's no way. After just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick with Joel Embiid, and here we are now. I know he's been injured a lot, and the Sixers have not had the timely performances I think that they needed to get them past the second round, whether it was Tobias Harris scoring 0 points in Game 6 against the Knicks, even an earlier playoff series, just the decisions that you made just from the perspective of the Sixers organization, you were just downgrading on negative assets the entire time. It's what I mentioned earlier with them finally picking up some young guys who could play well and then flip them possibly in the future. But I don't know what's with the Sixers and being addicted to collecting bad contracts, whether it's Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Paul George, freaking even Ben Simmons. Like when you got Tobias Harris scoring, dude, in the Game 6, I don't know why we're talking about Tobias now, but in the Game 6 against the Celtics in 2023, dude, the Sixers could have won that game for sure. They were at home. They could have closed that series out against a stacked Boston Celtics team. But Tobias was giving you 2 points, and Embiid and Harden just didn't show up either. But all these other teams, man, they always have that one dude who just steps it up and really carries them the victory, even if the superstar isn't playing as well as you expect them to. And the Sixers have not had that, and we wish that we had that in Paul George, but he's literally worse than Tobias Harris now.
And
of course he is.
And okay, so the people that hit me up, and by the way, for those just tuning in right now, we did talk about the Lonnie Walker signing at the beginning of this show. So when it's up, just watch it back if you want to hear our thoughts on the Sixers signing Lonnie Walker. But yeah, people been hitting me up this weekend saying you got to react to Paul George's Instagram story, and I'm like, bro, listen, I want to rip the guy just as much as anybody else, and it's fun for me. But I got to react to NBA reports or what he did in a game or didn't do in a game or, his injuries that I think are phony. But I don't really have an opinion on Paul George's Instagram story during All-Star break. What am I supposed to say? Oh, my God, he's on the beach and he's supposed to be
right.
What? We already know he's not in the gym. When's the last time there was a video of Paul George in the gym shooting a jump shot or working
when he was
on a
getting
basketball
clamped
drill?
up by that guy in China, remember? Remember that? Dude, I mean, everyone was saying he wasn't trying, but by how he's been playing this year, not being able to beat anybody off the dribble, I'm just saying.
Well, when your whole game is, ISO off the dribble and you lose a step, it's over. Especially in the NBA. That's why players end up overseas and other places because you can still survive in other leagues, but not in the best league in the world. These are the best of the best. Everybody's an elite athlete. You have to be, dude, as soon as you lose a step, you're done for.
Yep.
And yeah, I think, but yeah, I don't really have an opinion on Paul George being at the beach because I already don't expect him to be doing anything. So I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I do wonder where his black eye came from though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Who knows, man? Who knows? Did you watch the All-Star game?
I watched the first game and then the first game because they had multiple ones because they had the different teams. But once they started doing the Mr. Beast thing, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not spending my Sunday night watching this. Just clicked it off, read a book, called it a night. All-Star game is just such a joke.
If there's Mr. Beast fans out there, that's fine. He's the most popular YouTuber in the world. Me and my girl tried to watch his game show on Amazon. Have you tried to watch it? Have you watched it?
No, I've heard of it. I didn't watch it yet though.
Maybe I'm old school, man, but it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It is like let me sum this up. It's like all the editing and effects of like an 8-minute YouTube video, but it's like a series, dude. It's constant like, oh my God, wow, bang, pow, oh my God, everything's crazy. Everyone, I'm like, turn this off, dude. Turn this off.
Yeah, it's just
so
ridiculous.
I didn't see the Mr. Beast games at the All-Star game, but I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I can't I can't handle Mr. Beast at all. I think
Yeah,
it's
no, I mean,
terrible.
like,
That's just
yeah, I
my
mean,
opinion.
super successful, but in the All-Star game, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the All-Star game is having an identity crisis. And it hasn't been good, for me at least, since like 2016. It is just tanked in quality. It's always been about style, but with the players just not giving as much effort as they used to, I feel like they completely went overboard and just throwing so much stuff at your face. Like, oh, look, just be entertained by this. Look, it's Mr. Beast. It's Kai Cenat.
Yeah.
Like, it just distract from the fact that the game
Kevin
itself,
Hart
what the
for an
fans,
hour.
exactly, what the fans themselves are looking at, they just want to see the best players in the world compete. And then when you also got guys like Shaq and Draymond Green or stuff like talking down on today's NBA, it's just not a good product. I have no idea what they're trying to do marketing wise with the All-Star game.
You know what the NBA All-Star game is now? The NBA All-Star game is the same as NBA 2K, basically. You know, every year it's a terrible product, and every time leading up to the release, they say we made it better. This year we finally focused on the game. It's going to be better, and you find out all they did was added a fucking skateboard and a golf
It's a more
cart
realistic sweat dribbling down their forehead.
Yeah, they add a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with basketball. They add a mission on My Career where you have to meet J. Cole in a studio and make a rap song before you can play your next game. They add everything except for basketball to the game, and it just keeps getting worse. It's exactly what the All-Star game is. I'm so confused by it. Like you said, I don't know what they're trying to do. I think I'm so fascinated as I get older and just go through the world. I'm so fascinated how people in charge of things, in charge of major things, can have no idea what they're doing. It's just wild to me that people in charge of this can be this bad at it. And this year was so much worse than any year before. It is insane that somebody was like, hey guys, I have an idea to make it better. Because the whole thing should have been like, how can we make the players compete harder? Because that's what people want to see. Nobody wants to see anything else. Literally zero things. They were like, let's do 2 more concerts. Let's do the O Canada, the national anthem, and the national anthem for 17 other countries before the game. They present it like it's the Super Bowl. It's insane because they present it like it's the best game of all year, and it's the worst game of all year. It doesn't even make any sense. How do you have that much presentation for a game that everybody knows is going to suck? It's so weird to me. And the presentation keeps getting longer, and then they're like, let's add 5 Kevin Hart stand-up skits in the middle of the game, and then the players are getting pissed off. SGA's literally told them to shut up so they can continue the game. None of it made any sense. It was so bad, and at the end of the day, the players still didn't care. And in 2 of the 3 games, I watched the first one, and I watched the end of the last game. They ended on wide-open layups where the defender did not try to defend it at all. The game winner was a wide-open layup that nobody tried to defend. So they added a bunch of nonsense. The presentation was 4 hours long, and the game still sucked just as bad as it did before.
Right,
Just absolutely insane.
Don't you think it's crazy, though, that the NBA every single year is just so insistent on fixing the All-Star game, but other issues like officiating and load management, they just sweep under the rug every year. They act like they're trying to take a new approach with it, but no, we got to change the All-Star game. Or is it that they're finally realizing that with the players, or just something else, like if you want the players to care more, the last thing you want to do is to make them frustrated because they have to sit on the bench while Kevin Hart does a stand-up thing, while Mr. Beast is doing stuff completely irrelevant to what the All-Star game actually is. It's the best players in the world, or best players in the NBA competing, and you have them sitting on the bench and they're getting upset with it. That's just another non-incentive for them to actually care.
Yeah, well, like, they don't care, okay? And they never really cared. They used to play harder than they do now in the All-Star game. But once somebody, maybe it was LeBron, I saw people blaming LeBron for the downfall of the All-Star game. He's never cared about it. He always kind of just jogs around and laughs and throws alley-oops or whatever. Also, 3-point shooting is ruining the thing too, not just the NBA, but the All-Star game, because at least back in the day, they didn't really care, but they were trying to do highlight dunks. They were throwing the ball off the backboard and doing all, Tracy McGrady self alley-oops in traffic and stuff. Allen Iverson up under the hand, up and under behind the back. They were doing, at least they were trying to do like a flashy, make it look like a and one mixtape game, do some fancy dribble skills behind the back pass, 360 windmill dunk or whatever. Now they just jog across the floor and chuck a three, jog across the floor and chuck a three, jog across the floor and chuck a three. And it's horrible to watch. The All-Star game, I'm saying. The regular NBA is getting there. But the All-Star game is just horrible. And I didn't make it past the first game. I went and watched a TV show with my girl for like an hour and a half. And then I was like, wait, this is still on TV? And I put it back on. And the last game it was the worst. It's just bad. How much money are they losing every year on this All-Star game? Because who's buying the tickets? Who's watching that whole thing? It was painful to watch.
I mean, you think they're going to try and appeal to casuals, but I mean, just from a stylistic view, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you like them having their own like special All-Star jerseys? Because I know back in the day, they just used to wear their regular game jerseys. Do you prefer that more? Not like it's going to change anything, but I'm just saying, like,
I liked back in the day when they just had all the away jerseys for one team and all the home jerseys for the other team. That is cool.
And the court too. The court was like the blue and the yellow. It looked like the play-in tournament courts that just, it's not as bad as what the Sixers had last year when there was just red and it gave you migraines. But still, just too much.
I think that, and I started watching the NBA in 95, and my like heyday for watching the NBA and playing basketball was the early 2000s. And it was such a high-flying game. Like, there was just high flyers all over the place. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James when he came in the league in 2004-ish. There was high flyers everywhere, and we knew that when we watched the All-Star game, we're going to see dudes do crazy things. We're going to see some wild stuff. And it just doesn't feel like the NBA is that anymore. It doesn't seem there's high flyers out there. Don't get me wrong. There's Jalen.
I mean, the 2016 dunk contest with Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, maybe the best dunk contest ever. But
I think the skills competitions are still watchable. The 3-point shootout, maybe the dunk contest is still watchable. That's a stretch. But the game itself, they're just the league used to be super athletic, I think. And it's still super athletic, but it's just not above the rim as much as it used to be. And now guys are just jogging across the floor and shooting threes. So that just doesn't work well for an All-Star game because Donovan Mitchell jogs across the floor, chucks a three. Steph Curry does it. They're all doing the same thing in the All-Star game, and it's boring to watch.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just give him the week off, man.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Yeah, just enough. Enough is enough. If it's done, it's done. Just adapt to a new era. That's it.
Do the skills things and or don't do any of it. I don't know. It just doesn't.
Now they're thinking about doing a one-on-one tournament and stuff.
That's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's never gonna happen. Did you see the clip of R.J. Barrett? Cam Reddish. I'm sorry. There was a clip of Cam Reddish cooking somebody one-on-one in an NBA superstar in his prime. And they were like, somebody was like, "This is why the NBA will never do a one-on-one tournament at All-Star game."
To expose them.
Yeah, some dude like a Cam Reddish will school everybody, you're not gonna get who you gonna get to compete in that. That's the reason some of these guys that aren't interested in doing the dunk contest because they'll get embarrassed like Jaylen Brown did. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The whole thing is just bad. And my problem is every year I say I'm not gonna watch it at all, and then it's like a car accident. I'm like, oh look, the All-Star game. Let me see how bad it is, and then I watch it for like 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, turn it off.
Just unwatchable. Like, really.
I did bet a $10 parlay on Jackson Jr. to win the dunk contest and Wembanyama to have All-Star Game MVP. Jackson Jr. could not complete a dunk, actually. I don't know if you watched the dunk contest. This guy, I swear to God, he tried like some fancy stuff, missed both of them. Then he just tried to do a regular windmill for an easy score, and that like shanked out of the rim somehow. I was like, this guy can't even make a dunk. What are we watching? And then Mac McClung, does a reverse double pump over a damn car.
Sixers legend. That should be the entire dunk contest. Just him.
Just Mac.
Or any other superstar, if they feel like it, they can go in just for the ratings. But
How
yeah,
about-
just Mac.
Yeah, and people say Mac McClung is he's a YouTube dunker. And there's this era now of YouTube dunkers, right? They're doing crazy dunks. Just do that. Just put those
nothing wrong
guys
with
out
that.
there. It's like a circus act kind of, just show all the best dunkers in the world having a dunk off. We don't have to see guys that aren't really that good at it try to do it. I don't know. It's just so bad. Mac McClung was fun to watch, though. I was impressed that for a third year in a row he did something that he didn't do the last time. But he said he's done. I think he's done too. And now the dunk contest will officially die. It was holding on.
It's over once he's gone. It's who else is going to step up?
It was
not
holding
today.
on by Mac McClung. And none of the real NBA players are interested in doing it. So,
Yep.
But yeah, the All-Star game, so bad. So
Sure.
bad. How about a little Q&A in the chat before we get out of here, man? Or you got anything else you want to... Oh, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, I did mention, we were talking earlier about the Sixers' plans for the rest of the season. And, you got some more of the more optimistic parts of the fan base saying, oh, when Embiid, PG, and Maxey are on the floor together, they're 7-6, just a little bit above 500. If they can just get healthy, that's what Nick Nurse has been saying, and Daryl Morey and stuff, that just trying to manage their health and go on a playoff push. Here's the thing. Not only are they not good when none of them are on the court, they're not good when all three of them are. If you actually look at the losses that they've had and the wins, I went through every single one of them, and let me just list them off. They lost to the Grizzlies without Ja Morant. They got blown out by the Pistons without Cade Cunningham. Blown out to the Bucks without Giannis. Lost to the tanking Raptors, losing to 2K-generated players, Jamal Sheed and Mogbo. And they got destroyed by the Warriors, a team that likes to run. Destroyed by the Pacers, a team that also likes to run. And the games that they did win, other than the Celtics game on Christmas Day, it hasn't been very impressive either. They beat the trash Bulls, who... it was the game where Maxey and Embiid were spamming the pick and rolls, and Maxey had a triple-double. But they blew like a 20-point lead in that game. They barely scraped by. Then they beat the Hornets, and then they beat the Spurs before Fox when Embiid was crashing out, and so was Andre Drummond. The game with the refs and the ejections and bringing Drummond back in. Then, you beat the Celtics on Christmas Day. Then you beat the Jazz again, who are tanking. And then you beat the trash Nets. But then you lost to the Nets the game before the All-Star break. So even when the Sixers' big three or supposed big three are on the court together, they are not a good team whatsoever. They are losing to the worst teams. Not the worst teams in the league standing-wise, but teams that they should be beating, they are getting embarrassed by. And actually, not only is this true from the eye test, but did you know, Eastwood, the Sixers have a better offensive rating when Embiid is off the floor. Same thing with Paul George. The Sixers have a better offensive rating when they're sitting on the bench.
This season. Yeah.
Yeah, this year.
Definitely.
Which is unheard of for Joel Embiid because we know how impactful he is on the offensive floor with his gravity and how he can help other players. Seth Curry. Seth Curry had his best seasons of his entire career playing next to Joel Embiid, and you haven't heard from him since. He then again had some injury issues. Still had that with the Sixers, but he was great on the Sixers, and that had a lot to do with Joel Embiid. So his offensive output this year has been less than stellar because he's completely fried at this point, just to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
I don't take advanced stats for concrete, but just to go along with that, I posted on Twitter last week that the highest on-off differentials on the Sixers, number one is a Dembona with a plus 6.4. Number two is Ricky Council with a plus 4.1. And Joel Embiid was like 15th with a minus 0.9. And Joel Embiid is the only player on the roster that is a minus on-off differential this season, meaning he's minus 1 point when he's on the floor versus when he's off the floor. And that, of course, minutes played and things like that go into that type of thing, especially with a guy like a Dembona. He only plays like how many minutes has he even played the whole season? So 6 is inflated, but still those two guys are positives, and he's a negative, and it's just it has not been good. But speaking of that, the funny thing about tanking, or sit them down and let's tank, is that they've been better when those guys aren't playing. So that's the double-edged sword here, because the 7 games, the 7 games before Joel Embiid and Paul George came back, they won 5 out of 7. Guys that were contributing to those wins were Justin Edwards and Ricky Council and Adem Bona. Tyrese Maxey was going nuts, playing a fast-paced game, just flying up and down the floor, both ends. Ricky Council was so big in those games, getting rebounds and sprinting to the other end of the floor. He might be the fastest guy since rookie Ben Simmons, going end-to-end with the basketball in his hands. Then those guys hit the bench. Paul George and Joel Embiid come back, and they start getting blown out, and Tyrese Maxey starts struggling again. They look better. They look better with just young guys sprinting up and down the floor. So it's going to be funny if they sit them down for the year and they actually start winning too many games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that gets me thinking too. With the Sixers and the players they are acquiring, young, fast, like to move fast, like to just push the ball in transition, I feel like they're only going to be able to play as fast as Joel Embiid wants them to.
Yeah.
Just with the nature of how he is at this point in his career. Not very willing to hustle up and down the floor, low managing during games, and we've been seeing that. I brought up the offensive rating because it just popped in my mind. Like, the Sixers definitely are, at least eye test wise, a more well-oiled machine with Embiid and Paul George off the court. I know that Embiid's been putting up his stats, but the Sixers are just less efficient. They aren't the cut actions that Ricky Council and Justin Edwards have been benefiting from. You weren't really getting a lot of that with Embiid on the court. He's just been doing a lot of floating around the perimeter, not wanting to, not trying to sound like an old head, but just like back down in the post, just completely kind of just being a black hole. And it sucks that I have to rip on Embiid like this because I've been supporting him for years. But at this point, we just got to call it how it is. It's 2025. We've been doing this process thing for years, and I think it's really time for the Sixers to just take a step back and take a look in the mirror.
Yeah, sadly, years ago there was people that were saying you can't win like this. You can't win with a center being your number one. And they were looking at it's not, the game is getting faster, and you're playing a game where you're dumping it down to a center to shoot a fadeaway 2-pointer when guys are running down the floor chucking threes all game. So the game has been getting faster. Joel Embiid has been getting slower, and that's where we're at now, where this season he's been so slow that they have looked better with him off of the floor. If he could get back to what he was, or, in some of those games like the Christmas Day game against the Celtics, Nick Nurse was running the game through Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid was playing the number 2. That's exactly what was happening. He was floating around being a number 2 option, and Maxey was cooking, and they were playing a fast-paced game with Embiid on the floor. I didn't think it was possible, but they pulled it off that one single game. I don't know if that's sustainable as a play style with Joel Embiid for a season or a playoffs. But I think for me personally, man, I'm just ready to see a team that's just young and athletic and runs up and down the floor. This thing has been going on for so long, and I love Joel Embiid. I think he's going to go down as one of the greats, whether he ever gets out of the second round. I don't care. He's one of the most talented players I've ever watched. He's the most talented center I've ever seen. Some guys have injury problems and never get to the promised land, but I'm personally tired of watching it, and I'm tired of trying to come back from injury, or him trying to come back from injury. I feel like I'm coming back from injury every season now because it happens every year. Yeah, I'm just tired of it, man. It's time for something different. People are like, "Oh, you're not gonna win if I don't know. Maybe I don't care anymore. Maybe I don't care about winning anymore, dude. Maybe I'm just tired of watching this."
I mean, look. At least I don't know. I feel like our opinions with Daryl Morey change every single year. I don't know if I can really come up with a definitive opinion on Daryl Morey until at least 5 years after he's done with the Sixers. Because I feel like with Morey, he's definitely done a really good job in the draft and by acquiring diamonds in the rough. He was responsible for selecting Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, the players who are going to lead us into the future. as well as getting a Dembona, Justin Edwards, Isaiah Joe. But unfortunately, Doc Rivers didn't like Isaiah Joe, but now he's a competent role player on a team that's probably going to win the championship. But, Doc Rivers, what do you expect?
Yeah.
So Morey, he's definitely made good moves with the Sixers. It's just that with these big swings that he has made, they have not panned out whatsoever, especially Paul George. That is not a good look on his resume.
Yeah, Daryl Morey is probably the opposite of what he thinks he is. He's not a big swing guy. You know what I mean? Even trading for James Harden back in Houston when he was coming off the bench for OKC, that wasn't a swing for a superstar. That was a swing for a guy that he knew could be a superstar and became a superstar. Maybe Daryl Morey's better in the margins, and he just keeps taking these big swings and misses when, dude, just do what you're doing. You're great at drafting. As long as we could stop having the coach or whoever was also in charge of the roster, because clearly Daryl Morey would have been playing, Charles Bassey and Isaiah Joe because he's the one that drafted him. I think he'd be playing some of these guys that he drafted last year a little bit more than Nick Nurse is doing it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. His base hits are nice. His swings for the fences are total whiffs.
Yeah, I feel like just like to summarize the Morey era, he cleaned up a lot of the Sixers' messes only to add some of his own, but did help the Sixers out with getting some pretty good future pieces. I think that's a fair assessment.
Facts.
But
Cabbage. Go ahead, man.
If there's one thing, the guys that he has been getting, I don't think they played for the Houston Rockets. So that's another thing. When he came here with the Sixers, he was trying to build the 2016 Rockets, like Daniel House, PJ Tucker,
Maybe
Pat
he's
Bev,
accepted it. Maybe
Dwight
he's accepted
Howard.
it.
Yep.
Maybe he's accepted it. Maybe we're entering a new era of Daryl Morey. And our
It's
luck,
awakening.
Yeah, our luck, Daryl Morey transitions into, not transitions, that sounded weird, but Daryl Morey turns into a different version of himself. I guess that is transitioning. And we fire him, and he gets hired by another team, and then he does the things that we wish he would have done here. That would be Sixers luck. Aaron Cabbage, thanks for the super chat, man. I'm pretty sure if you have a bottom 2 seed, you can't get higher than 6th pick in the draft. Is that true? I don't think that's true. I think the top 4 teams have equal 25%.
There we go. Tankathon.com, my new favorite website. I do at least 100 spins per day. For real.
Tankathon.com. My first hit of the button right here has the Philadelphia 76ers at number 3, Chicago to the top. And as you see, Washington with the worst record in the league fell to number 5. Teams fell 3 spots. So, yeah, you can have the worst record in the league and fall. You can. It's a slim chance. That would be the 76ers' luck also, to have the worst record in the league and fall to like number 9 or something like that. So the fact that you have to get lucky here is scary because the Sixers do not get lucky. They're not a lucky team. They're an unlucky team.
Definitely.
But yeah, if they keep losing and they end up in the top or in the bottom 5, 4, 6, there is a chance that they move up. There they are at number 2.
Hey, there we
Bailey,
go.
Anyone? Ace Bailey.
Ace Bailey got he's got one of the quickest triggers I've ever seen. He's got a decent jump shot.
I know I say the name Tracy McGrady a lot because I love him, and I always did. Ace Bailey, for me, 6'10" with that type of jump shot. I see Tracy McGrady. I see a little Kevin Durant. I see a little, I see a little Paul George even, if you will, young Paul George.
Yeah,
not this Paul George.
But it's going to be pretty difficult though. You do play the Raptors a couple more times, so I think at best the Sixers can fall below the Raptors. But other than that, you're competing against the Pelicans and the Jazz and the Wizards. Those teams are locked, I think, for the top 3 chances. I don't think, no matter how many, if the Sixers legit try and go and tank, I don't think they'll be able to catch up to them. But if they could fall below the Raptors, they could really set themselves up for saving that pick.
Again, though, how are they going to tank? Because that's just the funny part is that they look worse when Embiid and Paul George are playing. So maybe that's why they haven't shut them down. Maybe they're like, hey, the numbers are showing that we're actually worse when we're playing these guys this season. Maybe we just keep limping them out there and we keep losing games. Because when they were all sitting out and we were playing all the young guys, we were beating teams like the Raptors and the Spurs and the Bulls and everybody. And now we're getting blown out by those teams. So maybe you just stay the course right now and you actually can keep losing games because they're not good enough to win. Because I think they're better when they play the younger players, which is just funny. And I think Maxi's better. Maxi's better when they play those guys than he's been with Embiid on the floor this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So there it is. We'll see what happens, man. Having a break from this team for a week and a half or whatever it's been has been very nice. I'm not complaining at all. It was much needed. Yeah. It was much needed. Thank you to Paul George for at least giving me a little bit of drama to react to on YouTube in the meantime. But yeah, man, thanks for coming through. NZ for 3, everyone. He is on YouTube, YouTube/NZ for 3. Straight up like that, right? NZ for 3 on YouTube.
Yep, NZ for 3. Appreciate the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, check out his YouTube channel, man. His videos are great. And yeah, thanks for joining me. We'll do this again sometime, man. Appreciate you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, chopping it up. Sixers
Thank you guys
therapy
for
sessions.
coming and hanging out in the chat, man. And the Sixers play, unfortunately, in 2 days.
First Boston.
Versus the Boston Celtics. Although we've been pretty good against Boston this year, which also doesn't make sense because nothing ever makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're probably gonna. I don't think they're at the beginning. You know, we blew a 26-point lead to them the last time we played them, but that's when they really started to take the Sixers seriously.
That's true. They were
so
jogging for
they're
three
probably
quarters.
they're not going to play around this time around. So
yeah, they were jogging for 3 quarters.
Got a top pick.
They were, yeah. I think that's what we need. I think that's what we need when they play Boston in a couple of days is an absolute blowout. And for reality to set in, this team is going nowhere this season. It's time to lose.
Well, yeah, if there's one more thing, they do have according to Tankathon, they do have the 4th easiest schedule strength. But given how just rancid this team has been the entire year, I don't really think that means anything at this point. When you're losing to the Pistons without Kate Cunningham, making Tobias Harris look like prime Scotty Barnes, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just, yep. There it is. Thanks for coming through, man. We'll do it again soon, and thank you everybody for hanging out. You sickos, 500 of you still in here. Hit the like button if you haven't already. We're out of here.